The following program is a special presentation of the Big Ten Network, produced in association with Purdue University.
He is revered by college basketball fans everywhere. The philosophical coach who propelled UCLA basketball to towering heights of success unmatched in all of college sports. Among them, an 88-game winning streak and 10 national championship seasons in an 11-year span. By all accounts, John Wooden's coaching resume remains the gold standard for all past and future coaches. But behind the magical success of this West Coast legend lay years of perseverance through sacrifice and heartache. It is a story of an Indiana rubber man who ultimately became the Wizard of Westwood. A story that took root on an Indiana farm in 1910, some 80 miles from Boilermaker country and the record books beyond.
Everybody knows, Coach Wooden, obviously as a coach. I have a tough time saying his name. You put it's like Coach Katie, you don't call him by his first name. You just have that kind of respect for him. I don't know him, as John Wooden, the player. You know him as Coach Wooden. But everybody here, in West Lafayette and that follow the, Purdue men's basketball team, they realize that John Wooden was one of the best guards to ever play here, if not the best.
John Robert Wooden was born in Hall, Indiana on October 14, 1910. The second of four brothers, he was raised in a small two-bedroom farmhouse in Centerton, Indiana. At a time when a postage stamp cost 2 cents and a loaf of bread a nickel, the Wooden family labored to make ends meet. Without plumbing or electricity, John's father, Joshua, worked the farm and hunted rabbits for additional food. To keep warm on cold, wintry nights, his wife, Roxy, would tuck the kids into bed with heated bricks from a wood-burning stove. However strenuous their life was in Centerton, Joshua Wooden encouraged his boys to make each day their masterpiece, preaching honesty, hard work, and appreciation for good books.
My dad, he had certain things. He said, there's always time for play. That's after the chores and the studies are done, of course. He read to us every night. We didn't have electricity or running water or anything on the farm. And he would read poetry and read scriptures to us every night.
Initially, John's father dismissed sports as a simple distraction from chores. In the end, he gave way to his energetic children, building a baseball field behind the barn, and more importantly, cutting the bottom out of an old tomato basket.
I think that just being born in Indiana, in those years, and any young fellow is going to be interested in basketball. It's just the natural thing. Dad tacked up an old tomato basket, and mother took an old cotton sock and filled it with rags, making it as round as possibly could, and that's where I first started.
By the age of 11, John Wooden had joined the Centerton grade school basketball team, where games were played outdoors on a dirt court littered with rocks and potholes. The school's principal, Earl Warner, also served as the basketball coach. He quickly recognized the talents of his young guard, but he was more interested in teaching the kids accountability and teamwork. One afternoon, just hours before a game, Johnny showed up without his uniform. When Coach Warner threatened to bench him, he bolted home to retrieve his jersey, arriving back at school out of breath just before tip-off. Still, he was forced to sit on the bench, watching his Centerton teammates trail in a close ball game. As the final minutes ticked away, Johnny finally shouted to his coach, "Put me in the game. We can still win this one." Earl Warner replied, "Johnny, there's more important things than winning and losing." Centerton lost by 2 points.
This special presentation of the Big Ten Network is brought to you by Purdue University, where the sky is not the limit.
PC Krause and Associates utilizes advanced modeling and simulation to design and analyze future integrated power systems for military and commercial applications.
Purdue Research Park. The idea economy is here.
What if there were a place where people still believe they can change the world, where creativity guides technology, and where ideas are created and challenged every single day? What if there were a place where finding the answers is just the beginning? That place is Purdue. It's here.
Energa Incorporated creates advanced optical instrumentation for analysis of combustion systems and specializes in absorption and emission spectroscopy, measurement and control of varied processes.
Purdue Research Park. The idea economy is here.
From the Indiana dunes to the banks of the Ohio, from high-powered boardrooms to corn-powered biofuels, Indiana's economic renaissance is powered in part by Purdue University. Our faculty, students, and alumni are creating new innovations, businesses, and thousands of Indiana jobs. And thanks to our leaders, citizens, and Purdue supporters, we're bringing it all back home to Indiana.
This is the moment, my final test. Destiny beckons, I never reckon second best. When I look back, I will recall, moment for moment, the greatest moment.
In 1926, Hoosier hysteria had arrived. The popularity of high school basketball in Indiana stretched from the banks of the St. Joe River to the heart of Jasper County. 20 miles south of Indianapolis, in the artesian spring city of Martinsville, a 5,500-seat gymnasium was constructed to hold the entire town population.
You know what, Martinsville was one of the best-known cities as far as basketball was concerned at that time.
If you ever see old film, the defensive stances, they often played several feet off of a player. There wasn't that, right on the ball pressure defense. There wasn't a lot of trapping.
You had the center jump after every made basket, which means the teams returned to half court and the referee threw the ball up and you started all over again. It was a lot harder to fast break because of that style. It was a very, very different game.
For the Wooden family, 1926 brought about a severe drought, and when a tainted vaccination killed off their hogs, the bank took away their farm. Picking up the pieces, the family moved 10 miles south to Martinsville. John received a 7-point creed from his father. Among the lessons, be true to yourself, make each day your masterpiece, and build a shelter against a rainy day.
We lost the farm after my freshman year, and we moved into Martinsville, and I was in there the rest of the time, but I met the young lady, the only girl whom I ever went with.
When John first spotted Nellie Riley at a county fair in 1926, it was love at first sight.
Their eyes met, and he said it was love at first sight. And then, little did he know that beyond that initial physical attraction, that they would have so much in common and that they would become such good friends.
After years of dribbling lopsided basketballs over outdoor terrain, young Wooden's ability on the hard court impressed Martinsville basketball coach Glenn Curtis. For Johnny Wooden, a new life was about to begin.
I think the Lord gave me quickness, and that was my biggest asset I had.
And John was so intelligent. He knew the offense. He knew where everybody was going to be, and he could get the ball to them, and then also create space in return to when he got the ball back that he would be open for shots.
In an era when over 700 Indiana high schools participated in a single tournament, Coach Curtis guided Martinsville to the 1926 championship game. The following year, Martinsville stormed through the tournament, defeating Muncie Central to become the 1927 state champions. As John's basketball career blossomed, so did his romance with Nellie Riley. But they kept their courtship quiet, since Coach Curtis forbid his players to date during the season. Nellie even joined the school band as a ukulele player. She couldn't play a lick, but it guaranteed her a seat at John's games. Whatever the future held for 18-year-old John Wooden, it wasn't going to include Martinsville. Not wanting to marry till he finished college, John bid a nervous goodbye to his girlfriend and set out for Purdue University.
Swift Enterprises focuses on heterogeneous and homogeneous propulsion systems and catalysts, electrokinetics, hydrogen peroxide electrochemistry, and coupled methanol hydrogen peroxide electrochemistry.
Purdue Research Park. The idea economy is here.
At Purdue University, step into a future with unlimited potential, a future where professors care about your success. Students learn cutting-edge knowledge from professors who are blazing the research trail. Choose among hundreds of majors that will prepare you for any career you can imagine. Head down the track to a world-class education. Hook up with Purdue University.
From the Indiana dunes to the banks of the Ohio, from high-powered boardrooms to corn-powered biofuels, Indiana's economic renaissance is powered in part by Purdue University. Our faculty, students, and alumni are creating new innovations, businesses, and thousands of Indiana jobs. And thanks to our leaders, citizens, and Purdue supporters, we're bringing it all back home to Indiana.
Quadraspec is commercializing a protein diagnostic technology utilizing a direct optical protein detection to indicate disease onset. The BioCD can test for more than 10,000 diseases in a brief span of time.
Purdue Research Park. The idea economy is here.
What if there were a place where people still believe they can change the world, where creativity guides technology, and where ideas are created and challenged every single day? What if there were a place where finding the answers is just the beginning? That place is Purdue. It's here.
Glenn Robinson wore number 13, and we had heard that John Wooden wore number 13, but we couldn't find evidence of that in the files. The John Wooden material always showed pictures of people from the front, and in those days they didn't put numbers on the front of jerseys, only on the back. So I thought, well, the best way to settle this is let's call him. So I called him one day, this was like 1994, get him on the phone and said, John, we're doing a little research and just wanted to verify something. Is it true that you wore number 13? He said, oh yes, my senior year I wore number 13. I said, well, you know, Glenn Robinson wears number 13, and he is, you know, the National Player of the Year. You were our National Player of the Year. And I said, so you have something in common with Glenn Robinson. He says, oh yes, but I'm much better above the rim.
In the fall of 1928, John Wooden arrived in West Lafayette, Indiana. Already renowned for its excellence in engineering, agriculture, and aviation, the sprawling Purdue campus of 6,000 students seemed the proper fit for an undergraduate engineer.
At that time, I wanted to become a civil engineer. That's the main reason I went to Purdue. I didn't know that you had to go to civil camp every summer to get your degree in civil engineering. There were no athletic scholarships, and my parents had no financial means to help. I had to work in the summers to help. So I just changed to a liberal arts course, majored in English. I knew that's what I was going to do. I never regret. I knew from that time I was going to be a teacher. And my favorite American, Abraham Lincoln, said that things work out best for those who make the best of the way things work out.
Wooden immediately took up residence at the Beta Theta Pi fraternity, where he participated in various Greek athletic competitions and earned money working as a busboy. When it came to studies, John found support from head of the English department, Dr. Creek, a man notorious for strolling around campus, drinking tea, and quoting classic poetry. Johnny's warmest welcome came at Purdue's Memorial Gymnasium, where head basketball coach Ward Lambert greeted the youngster with a hearty handshake. Nicknamed Piggy for hogging the ball in his playing days, Lambert may have stood only 5 foot 6 inches, but he was as passionate a leader as any in college basketball. Legend has it, he once accidentally stepped in a water bucket while arguing a bad call, clomping his way down the court after the referee.
Ward Piggy Lambert, he's the best. There's just no better. A man of extremely high principles, and I think my basic coaching philosophy came more from him. And I think he was way ahead of his time in fast break basketball. But more than anything else, he was just concerned and considerate of others, and I owe him much.
Amidst the economic depression in 1930, Purdue basketball prospered on the court, thanks to Ward Lambert's rigorous conditioning program. His practices were famous for up-tempo scrimmaging and rebounding drills that resulted in bloody uniforms. In mid-December, with the 1930 season barely underway, disaster struck when John was injured in a Lafayette streetcar accident.
There used to be a streetcar that would go over into downtown Lafayette. There was an accident and a rod off either the streetcar or the car that it had a small accident with punctured Wooden's leg.
It wasn't until the Big Ten Conference opener against Michigan that 6'7" senior center Stretch Murphy and a fully healed Johnny Wooden found their up-tempo groove. Defeating the Wolverines 23-19, the gritty Boilermakers developed a reputation for wearing down opponents. Both Murphy and Wooden were awarded All-American honors by the Helms Athletic Foundation.
When we go to hotels, we would like to walk behind Stretch. And then after he go by people, then the time we'd get there, people, who's that big guy? They'd be looking up at him.
For Johnny Wooden, Purdue's basketball boot camp only enhanced his breakneck playing style, earning him the sideshow nickname India Rubber Man, though local fans preferred to call him the Indiana Rubber Man.
I think it was because he bounced all over the place. You hear stories of him diving into bleachers, and he's renowned as a guy that controlled the game really by his hustle and his ability.
People actually used to call him the Freak. He was so athletic, they gave him that nickname, and everybody always just talked about what a good player he was, how tough he was, and then obviously when you call somebody the Freak, that means you're pretty athletic.
With limited funds and a demanding schedule, it was no secret to alumni and teammates that John's personal finances barely afforded him warm enough clothes for the winter.
To help pay for his room and board, he was a busboy and a server at one of the fraternity houses. So we're talking about a guy, think about his day. He goes to class, he goes to practice, he goes and serves, waits tables, does dishes at a fraternity house, and then sits down to do his homework or goes and meets with Coach Lambert to help to get some tutoring in. In fact, Coach Lambert called Wooden into his office one day, I believe it was in his sophomore year, and said, he said, "John, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but there's a prominent physician in Lafayette who is probably your #1 fan."
He says he wants you to quit working. He wants to pay all your expenses so you won't have to work anymore. Oh, I thought that's something. And he said, well, how are you going to pay him back? And I said, well, maybe I am misunderstood. I thought he just wanted to do it. Well, he said, yes, he wants to do it, and he's not expecting to be paid. I just thought you're the kind of person that want to pay him back, but you think it over for a little while and come in and see me. So for the end of the semester of the school year, I went in to see him, and he said, well, what'd you decide? And I said, well, I'm getting along all right, I'll continue. He said, that's what I thought you'd say.
How many All-Americans do you ever see doing dishes or bussing tables or waiting tables? But that was John Wooden. He declined that offer because he said, I needed to do it on my own.
When the football team traveled to Soldier Field, John sold concessions to excited and inebriated Purdue alumni.
You know, instead of fan buses back then, there would be fan trains. And when Purdue went to Indiana or they went to the University of Chicago to play, John would, the night before, stay up and make these sandwiches, and he would even get some gold and black ribbon to tie around the sandwich in its wrapping so that it would be a Purdue sandwich. And he would make lots of money in those days selling those sandwiches on the train.
In the rebuilding year that followed Stretch Murphy's graduation, Purdue posted a 12-5 record, with Johnny Wooden again reaping All-American honors. Thanks to some heartfelt letters pouring in from his Martinsville sweetheart Nellie Riley, John stood poised to make his final year at Purdue one worth remembering.
How far would you need to go to see the future? To find out now how new technologies will transform your business and open the door to unseen opportunity. Where would you look for ideas that can take you further? Purdue. It's here.
Akina Incorporated specializes in the development and research of novel drug delivery technologies that include superporous hydrogels for gastric retention and diet control, hydrotropic polymer micelle for delivery of...
Purdue Research Park. The idea economy is here.
This is the moment, my final test. Destiny beckons, I never reckon second best. When I look back, I will recall, moment for moment, the greatest moment of them all.
InSpace LLC develops advanced injector and combustion initiation technologies for chemical propellant rocket engines to achieve mission velocity increment requirements at maximum propellant mass fractions and specific impulses.
Purdue Research Park. The idea economy is here.
At Purdue University, step into a future with unlimited potential, a future where professors care about your success. Students learn cutting-edge knowledge from professors who are blazing the research trail. Choose among hundreds of majors that will prepare you for any career you can imagine. Head down the track to a world-class education. Hook up with Purdue University.
This special presentation of the Big Ten Network is brought to you by Purdue University, where the sky is not the limit.
By 1932, Piggy Lambert's Boilermakers had come to full stature. With Charles Stewart and Dutch Faring alternating into center position, Purdue's starting rotation of Ralph Parmenter, Ray Eddy, and captains Harry Keller and Johnny Wooden tore through the Big Ten. Purdue's athletic big men rarely lost a jump ball, while their up-tempo offense forced opponents back on their heels.
I thought we played together extremely well. Most have been together the year before, and I think we had very good team chemistry.
While locked in an overtime battle with Ohio State, the speedy Wooden intercepted a pass, dribbled into a double team, and dished the ball to a wide-open Ray Eddy under the basket, sealing Purdue's victory over the Buckeyes. In an era before AP rankings and postseason tournaments, the Helms Athletic Foundation awarded Purdue the national championship title and honored John Wooden as an All-American for the third straight season.
The 1932 Purdue team finished 17-1, won the Big Ten championship, and was deemed by the media as a national champion. It was 7 years before the start of the NCAA tournament, so Purdue laid claim, and certainly in the days before lots of rankings and a lot of attention to rankings, I think that Purdue team deserved it as much as anybody else.
From just everybody that I've spoken with that knew anything about that team, In January and February, there was nobody in the world that was going to beat that basketball team. They were just terrific. They forced the tempo, they defended. Wooden, I believe, led the Big Ten in scoring. And literally that team just kind of rode off into the sunset with the championship.
The 1932 Purdue Boilermakers are not forgotten, but for all their glory, they are remnants of an era prior to the NCAA tournament. And perhaps because of this, their success largely remains a shrouded footnote in college basketball history. For Johnny Wooden, 4 years of basketball, undergraduate studies, and countless part-time jobs had come to an end. He graduated from Purdue University with an English degree, ranking 19th in a class of 1,500 students. 3 months after graduating from Purdue, John finally tied the knot with his longtime sweetheart, Nellie Riley, raising 2 children and enjoying 53 years of marriage. In the decade that followed, he worked as a high school coach and English teacher in Dayton, Kentucky and South Bend, Indiana. From 1942 to 1946, he served as a naval lieutenant in World War II before returning home to coach basketball at Indiana State University. Throughout it all, the friendships that Wooden forged in Old Gold and Black remained. Ward Lambert, Stretch Murphy, and Dutch Faring, who, in 1948, referred John to a coaching vacancy in Los Angeles, California. Interestingly, before signing a 3-year contract with UCLA, John was approached by Purdue Athletic Director Red Mackey.
Lambert had resigned and had been replaced by his longtime assistant, Mel Tobby. And so Red Mackey decided that, boy, you know, it would be awful nice to bring John Wooden back to coach. And they had a meeting in Kansas City at a tournament at which one of Wooden's teams were playing. And Mackey presented a scenario in which Wooden could possibly become the coach here. And it just wasn't being handled the way that Wooden wanted. You know, he wanted Tobby to be involved a little bit more in maybe the decision-making process. And can you imagine how the complexion or the horizon or the picture of college basketball might have changed if John Wooden had come to Purdue to be its head coach in the early 50s? It's one of the great stories to me of what if.
Widely regarded as the greatest coach in the history of American sports, the world may know John Wooden as the Wizard of Westwood. But the annals of Purdue basketball will remember him as a Boilermaker, falling into the bleachers, diving to the hardwood, and sprinting to the basket, forever young. Several years after he retired from basketball, John Wooden was asked if he thought he had lived up to the 7-point creed that his father had given him. Wooden replied characteristically with a poem, "I'm not what I ought to be, not what I want to be, not what I'm going to be, but I am thankful that I'm better than I used to be." For Purdue Profiles, I'm Randy Roberts.
The preceding program was produced by Purdue University in association with the Big Ten Network.